Today, we are going to be studying in selections of Likutei Sichos in English, the second talk. And it will address a simple, basic question. The question, as we'll see, but I'm sharing with you beforehand, when Yosef became the leader of Egypt, he can do anything he wants except being equal or above Pharaoh. And the question is, he knew full well how sad and how upset his father is, thinking that he's dead. How come he did not send messengers to let his father know that he lives in Egypt? Why did he wait for the development of the brothers coming and going back and coming? He could have sent a messenger and saved 9 years. By the time they came to see him, it was the second year of famine. So there was 7 years of good, of plentiful, and 2 years of famine. 9 years later, so for 9 years, he could have spared his father all the pain. An obvious question. Page 522, says the Rebbe. As explained on many occasions, in his commentary to the Torah, Rashi sought to explain every point that is unclear according to the simple, straightforward meaning of the Torah. If there is a point that seemingly requires explanation according to the Torah's straightforward meaning, and yet Rashi does not focus on it, this is proof that according to his understanding, the matter is so clear that it does not require explanation, or can be understood based on Rashi's previous explanations. Rashi will not skip explaining or addressing an issue that is a straightforward question for a child, for a youngster. If Rashi skips pointing it out or discussing it, it means the matter is obvious, it's a simple way to explain it, to understand it, or if you study Rashi in order, you already know the answer based on previous Rashi. There is a point in this week's Torah reading that raises questions about how to understand the straightforward narrative and has attracted the attention of several other leading commentators on the Torah. Nevertheless, Rashi, the foremost of the commentators who focus on the Torah's straightforward meaning, does not focus on it at all. Many commentators address this question, yet Rashi, who is the most basic commentator, skipped the whole issue. The question arises particularly with regards to the time mentioned in the Torah reading. The previous Torah reading, Parshat Vayeshev, relates that Yosef was brought down to Egypt, sold as a slave, and then imprisoned. It is obvious under such circumstances, Yosef did not have the opportunity to notify his father that he was alive because he was under someone else's rulership. He had been a slave. A slave has no rights. He is in prison. In prison, you cannot use the public phone. In those days, the prisoners did not have human rights, and they can definitely not use a public phone to call people. However, at the time spoken about in our parsha, in our Torah reading, Yosef had become the viceroy of Egypt and could do anything he wanted. Why did he leave his father to suffer and mourn rather than notify him via one of the caravans that traveled to Canaan or by sending a messenger? Doing so would certainly have given his father a new lease on life. He could have sent someone to tell his father, don't worry, I'm alive. Why didn't he do it?
He wanted the dreams to come true. So in order to do this, to get his brothers to come down and bow.
So you're asking him to act on behalf of God. This is totally unacceptable in Judaism. In Judaism, whatever is in front of you, that's where you're supposed to act and do, and allow God to play out his master plan. In other words, you cannot say if it was God's plan, it was God's plan. I'm going to use a simple example. When you have a beggar, a poor man who says, I didn't eat for 2 days, can you help me? You say, well, it must be God's plan that he should be poor, so why should I help him? Because if God wanted him to have food, he would have. So that you're not allowed to interfere with your order to beautify, improve the universe, honor your father, fulfill all the mitzvot, even if you know that God's plan is differently. It's forbidden.
How would you know how would you know? I mean, you mean.
Because God gave us the Torah. God gave them 7 laws of Noah. One of them is honoring your parents. And part of the mitzvah is to prevent his father from the pain and suffering. So you must obey God. There is no exception. They ask Reb Meir of Parmishlan, there is a famous rabbi, Hasidic rabbi. It says that in the Torah, everything God gave us, there is there is an exception to the rule. Any prohibition, non-kosher food, there is an exception. The non-mixing milk and meat, there is an exception. What's the exception to milk and meat? Huh? That's not the exception, it's part of the law. The exception is the udder of the animal may be eaten, even though it's soaked in milk. When you slaughter the cow, you can take that part. You have to remove the milk from it, but this is an exception. There is every part of any prohibition in the Torah has an exception, and every one that's a mitzvah, there is an exception. So they asked the rabbi, these are scholars, they knew all of them, and one of them is apikorsut, someone to deny God. Denying God, idol worshiping is in the same package. Where is the exception to that rule? And Reb Meir of Parmishlan says there are times that the exception is that you must deny God. When a beggar knocks on your door and he says, I need help, you must deny God's divine providence and act as a God and save his life. Because if you believe in God, then it doesn't make sense to assist that person because God runs the show. He knows every details. That knows everything. That if you feel that God made a mistake or forgot about this person, that's called denying God. The denying of God must be where you are going to not obey God's plan, not follow God's plan, and say to God, this is my mandate, this is my requirement to help someone, and I'm going to do it. In other words, you try to interfere with God's plan. Now, this is, in Hebrew, we call it binyan av. This is a metaphor that it's the pinnacle, but that expresses the idea of us serving God. At the same time, God commanded us to obey God without questions. At the same time, God gave us a commandment, which is a list of 613, and we must stick to them, even if it interferes with God's own commandments. So if God says, honor thy father and mother, there must be the fact that God had shown a dream. Let's say even he told them they will worship. That's not in the Torah. That's not a commandment. And therefore you must follow the commandments.
Is that the same rationale for a soldier?
Just a minute, let me.
Getting back to the question about the beggar knocks on the door, maybe God sent him there so you could have a missile feeding.
Of course, it's not maybe, it's for sure.
Okay, so then
But you are denying God's plan, because if it wasn't God's plan, how come the man is poor? It's a dichotomy.
But I'm only trying to say that God's plan is for this man to be poor and starving.
Is that plan a commandment? Of course not. There is no place God commanded them to bow down. There's no plan God told Yosef he is part of that plan to make them bow down. There is a commandment to honor your father. So when the two clashes, you must follow the commandment. And that's the idea was.
Would that be the same as, for example, a soldier? A soldier has to kill somebody.
No, that's a commandment that you have to protect your life.
Okay, what?
That's not murder. That's preserving life. I'm talking about a man knocks on your door. You have to say to yourself, there is no God. That's what Rabbi Meir of Parmishlan, very famous rabbi, said. You have to say to yourself, there is no God who runs the show. I am the one in charge of that person's life. And if I don't feed him and he dies, it's my responsibility. And you cannot say, well, God, you had a plan. There is no such thing. Ask the Rebbe, we are on top of page 524. On the surface, it is possible to say that this question can be resolved based on the explanation given by Rashi previously. In Parshas Vayeshev last week, regarding why Yaakov had to mourn for his son for such an extended period of time, 22 years elapsed from the time Yosef was separated from Yaakov until Yaakov descended to Egypt, corresponding to the 22 years of Yaakov did not fulfill the mitzvah of honor in his parents. You can say, well, Yosef is doing the exact same thing that Yaakov did to his parents. It's called measure for measure. Yaakov left his parents for 22, more than 22. It was 22 plus 14. It was 36 years. But the 14 years of study of Torah does not count because you're busy with another mitzvah. The 14 years. But there are 22 years that he did not serve the honor of thy father and mother. And for that 22 years.
Because he left?
Because he wasn't home, yes. 14 years he worked for his 2 wives. Another 6 years he works for his cattle. And 2 more years he's journeyed, a year and a half in Shechem and another 6 months in Bethel. There are 22 years. Now, Yosef disappeared when he was 17. Yosef was 17 years old. And Yosef was found when he was 39, exactly 22 years. So maybe that's why Yosef did not answer, did not send messengers, because there was a punishment on Yaakov that had to befall Yaakov. And if he would come or revealed earlier, Yaakov will not be cleansed of that sin.
Didn't
So the
Yaakov's
Rebbe-
mother tell him, you got to go?
Yeah, but still,
How did he not honor him?
okay, so the idea was that you're supposed to go for 1 year.
Oh, but that doesn't.
That's a simple answer. There are other answers.
Okay.
It could be said that Yosef did not send messengers to inform his father that he was still alive before this 22-year pass, because Yaakov was being punished for that duration of time for not honoring his parents. This says the Rebbe, the answer that I just shared with you. This answer is not satisfactory resolution of Yosef's conduct because A, how did Yosef know that Yaakov was to be punished for 22 years for not honoring his parents? Nobody knew. God later revealed that, but at the time nobody knew about that. And even if one were to say that he knew about the decree, B, he could have informed Yaakov that he was alive without disclosing his location until the 22 years have passed. Thus, Yaakov would be punished by being separated from Yosef for 22 years, during which he lived apart from Yitzchak. In other words, A, Yosef didn't know about this. B, even if Yosef knew, he could have said to his father, don't worry, I'm alive, and show him and prove, give him some signs that to prove that he's alive, but without disclosing his location. This way, Yosef is separated from Yaakov is separated from his beloved son, just like he was separated from his parents. However, Yaakov would not suffer the agony of thinking that Yosef was no longer alive. Being separated from his son is very painful, but it cannot be compared to thinking that he lost a child. C, most importantly, the above explanation does not resolve Yosef's conduct. Even if it was decreed from heaven that Yaakov was to be punished for 22 years for not honoring his parents, surely that does not grant Yosef permission to punish his father by not informing him that he was alive. To cite a parallel, it is not logical to say that Yaakov's sons were permitted or even obligated to sell Yosef into slavery so that his dream would be fulfilled and Yaakov would be punished. That's the exact point that I shared. Harry, do you understand?
Yes.
Now, the fact that God is punishing Yaakov does not allow Yosef to misbehave. And therefore, just like the sons, you can say, well, the sons did the right thing because they had to be able to bow down as the dream was, and therefore they sold him. So one day he should be the king. That's not an answer. They did a very, very tragic, they acted in the most horrific way to disobey God, and therefore they are being punished. And as we discussed this morning, until this very day we pay for it. Every Yom Kippur we talked about the 10 martyrs, and we talk about the history of Jewish people that are paying for that. In other words, God is judging a person by their actions, not by God's plan. And the fact that the sons sold Yosef, they are fully responsible. the fact that it was played out, part of God's plan, has nothing to do with the sons. The same is Yosef. Yosef, even if he knew, which we don't think he knew, even if he knew, it does not justify or permit in any way, shape, or form from holding back the information. So comes back the question, and Rashi is avoiding the whole topic. That's what the Rabbi's problem. The above question can be resolved based on another statement by Rashi in Parshat Vayeshev that requires clarification. Rashi explains why the Holy One, blessed be He, did not reveal to Yaakov that Yosef was alive as follows. Rashi said in Vayeshev, when Yosef disappeared, why God chose not to tell Yaakov that, don't worry, he's still alive, says Rashi. Why didn't the Holy One, blessed be He, reveal it to him? Because Yaakov's sons issued a ban for ostracism against and cursed anyone who would reveal the matter to Yaakov, and they had the Holy One, blessed be He, join together with them so that they have a minion. Yitzchak, however, knew that Yosef was alive because he was a prophet, he knew.
Can we do that when we get nine?
Nevertheless, he did not tell Yaakov, for he said, how can I reveal it to him when the Holy One, blessed be He, does not desire to reveal it to him? Rashi tells us, how come God does not reveal to Yaakov that Yosef is not dead? Says Rashi, when the brothers sold, they made a pact, they took an oath. Everyone joined in an oath that no one is going to tell the truth. And therefore, and they were 9, because Yosef was not part of it. Benjamin was never part of it, never went. That's why Yaakov never knew. And Reuven, we know Reuven went away because he came back. So you have 9 out of the 12, you have 9. They needed a minion. To make a ostracism, you need a full minion. What do you get at the end? They said to God, you are going to participate with our pact, without promise, without oath. And therefore they told God, they said that we as a minion, with the power of a minion, it's like a bed din, we order that someone who will reveal should be excommunicated. Therefore, God did not reveal. He was, so to say, forced not to share. Yitzchak is still in Beersheba. They live nearby. They have 2 homes next to each other. Yitzchak says, if God is not revealing, how dare I am able to reveal? And therefore, Yitzchak does not reveal. And it says, Vayev koto aviv. His father cried. It's not Yaakov crying after Yosef, but it's Yaakov's father is crying, knowing the truth, but he cannot reveal it to Yaakov.
It's a shame we can't use God to make a minion.
Okay, so that's this Ben Chacham here already asked the question. I should tell you, I'm gonna. It's maybe come to hunt me, but I'm still old enough to take it on my shoulders. There are rabbis who will take 9 and say God is part of the minion. If somebody did it here, I'll kick him out of shul. But there are
Okay,
people.
we got 8.
But they
You gotta
did
get
it.
2 more.
They did it in Russia in our day and age, in the 80s, 90s. They did it in Russia where there was no one else in the entire town that can help them, and they really either they had someone or the Yota, etc. But under all circumstances, a minion of men, and God is not. God does appear only when you get a minion. What?
That story that you're showing Luda one time when I was saying Kaddish for my father Shalom. 4 men, 5 women in the Torah. That really gets it.
I will tap that.
Okay.
I grew up in a farm village. One day,
cattle?
Shabbos afternoon, they were looking for a minion and they had 6 men. And one of the members, I witnessed that. One of the members turned to a farmer and says, why don't you go and bring 4 horses and we'll have a minion? And the guy says to him, I have your 6 horses. I'm looking for 4 men.
There was a story, I don't remember the spot, but it was some show that I was at, that they get dedicated Something, I don't remember, something happened in Israel.
So let me tell you, I think what I'm referring, but I'm just short in time, that's why I'm cutting you this, sorry for disrespecting. In Hebron, there is a famous story. They got stuck with 9 and suddenly a stranger
That's the story.
showed up and they were told, they asked him for his name. They wanted to give him an aliyah and his name, he says his name is Abraham. At night, in a dream, the rabbi was told that that was Abraham, our forefather, because they did it in Hebron, right next to Me'arat HaMachpelah. I saw that Torah that they used 600 years ago. It's a famous story, and the parchment is made out of deer skin, which is very delicate. I touched the deer skin. I wanted to feel it, and it really feels very hairy. They right away stopped me. They didn't want to. They said it's so delicate. They allowed me to take it out of the ark. I had a VIP. I took a VIP tour with 2 members of the community that we went first class. So I was able to afford it. And I paid a nice sum of money, but they took out the Torah and they opened it for me. So I just wanted to touch, and they say only once a year in Simchat Torah. I think it was Simchat Torah or Rosh Hashanah. It was it was the first night of Sukkot, which Avraham is the Spizin. It was a very special time, and that's a story. Can we continue now? Ask the Rebbe, page 526, 526. It is necessary to understand to whom this ban of ostracism and curse apply. It cannot be said that the brothers issued the ban of ostracism and curse against anyone who would reveal the matter to Yaakov. That is, that the ban of ostracism applied to anyone in the world who would reveal the matter to Yaakov. For if so, the continuation of Rashi's statement, Yitzchak, however, knew, but says, how can I reveal it to him, requires explanation. If the ban of ostracism applied to universally, it would have also applied to Yitzchak. Why then did they need further reason not to reveal the matter if the ban already prevented them from revealing it? Did you understand the question? The Rebbe is asking, when they made a ban on anyone revealing, does it apply? If it applies universally to all people in the world, and therefore Yosef cannot reveal because he's barred, he's forbidden, then why Rashi continued to say that Yitzchak did not reveal? Because he said, God doesn't want to reveal, so I'm not going to reveal. That's not the reason. The reason is because he's forbidden from revealing like everybody else. Why was it necessary to include the Holy One, blessed be, among those who issued the ban of ostracism? Even had God not been included among them, according to the above explanation, he could not, as it were, have revealed the matter because of the ban. Therefore, says the Rebbe, the second point is, why did they have to include God to be forbidden? If they forbade everybody, that includes God. And therefore, it is necessary to say that the ban of ostracism applied only to those who participated in it. The words anyone who revealed the matter refers to any of those who were present then and took part in issuing the ban. Accordingly, it was necessary for them to have the Holy One, blessed be, participate. Nevertheless, the following matters will require clarification. Therefore, they needed a minion. In other words, who they forbade from revealing? Anyone present. God is present. Therefore, they needed to include him. Yitzchak was not present, so he was excluded from the ban, and therefore he's allowed to. The only reason he doesn't do it because God said not to. Says Rashi, but there are a few more questions we need to understand. Rashi's quotes Yitzchak as saying, how can I reveal it to him when the Holy One, blessed be he, does not desire to reveal it to him? Since God participated in the ban, Yitzchak should have said, the Holy One, blessed be he, is bound by oath not to reveal the matter. And if so, that's the first question. Says Rabbi, I don't understand. If God couldn't reveal because he was part of the ban, because he was present, then it's not that he don't want to reveal, it's because he's not allowed to reveal, so to say. Why Rashi says that Yitzchak did not reveal? Because says God don't want to reveal, so I shouldn't reveal either. Maybe God wanted to reveal, but God was following the ban. B, Why was Yitzchak prevented from revealing the matter to Yaakov? Because of the fact that God did not. The reason God kept Yosef's location from Yaakov was that he was included in a ban of ostracism, and he was thus prevented from doing so. However, that was not relevant to Yitzchak because he did not participate in the ban. If you tell me that the ban must have applied only to people present at the time, Yitzchak was not present at the time, and therefore God did not reveal not because he don't want to, because he's not allowed to. I am allowed to. I should reveal. See, why was a ban of ostracism necessary at all, says the Rebbe. He don't understand why did they made a pact not to reveal. Seemingly, it should have been sufficient for all those present to agree among themselves not to reveal the matter to Yaakov. Similarly, with regards to God, they could have simply prayed and requested of God that he not reveal the matter. Why was a ban of ostracism necessary? Another question that I said, I don't understand. They are all partners in the crime. You have a bunch of thieves breaking into a bank. Do you need to make a ban that you will not reveal? All you say is, we're not going to share it with anybody because it's going to come to hunt us. They're going to come to hurt us back. Why did they need a ban, and why did they need God to include? Number D, neither the straightforward reading of the text nor Rashi's commentary mention that Yaakov's son released a ban of excommunication before they told Yaakov that Yosef was alive. How then were they able to share the news with him? Then the Rebbe has another, we call it a klotz kasha, a question that it's so obvious that people pass on without paying attention. Says, I don't understand. They excommunicated anyone revealing that Yosef is not dead, right? Yet, when Yosef was alive and they discovered that next week, what happens? They go back to Yaakov and tell the truth. Hey, what about the ban that you made? You have to release that ban. You have to reconvene and make sure to break that ban. Otherwise, there's a spell on anyone revealing the truth. Yes.
God were a participant.
They made God to participate, and the Rebbe don't understand why.
How did Yitzhak know?
He had a divine inspiration.
But the divine inspiration comes from God.
Right.
So why would God, then God broke the
God did
He
not
knew before.
speak to Yitzchak. Yitzchak saw it. The Kabbalah explains, we don't have the time and the ability. Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, means just like you can see the past 15 years, you are able to see a second in the world of Yetzirah. Those of us who come to JLI, you know there are 4 universes. The second one above us is 15 years ahead. So a righteous man see now what will happen in 5 years, 10 years, and 15 in a split second. Yitzchak saw it. He did not need God to speak to him. He saw the band they took. He saw the cell that they did. He saw where Yosef is. He knew everything without God revealing anything. By the way, if you look at the beginning of the portion, it begins with the words, Miketz shnatayim yamim. It was at the end of 2 years. The Gemara tells us, the Medrash brings, that the day Yosef came out of the dungeon is the day Yitzchak went to the dungeon. Yitzchak died the day Yosef. And if you follow the years, we know the age of Yitzchak, the age of Yaakov, and the age of Yosef, you will see that the day Yitzchak lived the longest of all the forefathers. He lived 180 years. If you follow Yitzchak, if you follow the chronological order, you'll find that the day Yosef came out of the dungeon, which is right at the beginning of the 7 years of plentiful, is the day Yitzchak went back into the dungeon. He was buried and that day. Let's continue.
Back into the dungeon, meaning buried. Is that what you mean? Back into the dungeon, you mean he was buried?
Yes. He went into the dungeon. All right, let's go. We are making headways. Thank God, we're moving ahead. Some of the commentators interpret Rashi's intent based on the Medrash Tanchuma, Rashi's apparent source, which states that Yaakov's son said the following: let us issue a ban of ostracism among ourselves, and none of us will tell Yaakov our father. Yehuda told them, this is the Medrash, that's the source of Rashi according to many commentators. Yehuda, because Rashi does not quote the source where he got it from. Sometimes he will have a quote from a source, but he will change a little bit. Here is the full source according to many commentators. Yehuda told them, Reuven isn't here, and a ban of ostracism is not viable unless 10 participate. They said, let's make a ban, but Yehuda says to them, for a real solid ban, you must have a minyan. There's no minyan, we have only 9.
9 wouldn't have sufficed.
No, you need a minyan. They can make agreement, but they can break that. And there is no ostracism, there is no excommunication punishment. In other words, the severity of revealing the secret is much different whether there is a ban made by a minyan or it's not. What did they do? They made the Holy One, blessed be he, partner in the ban of ostracism, so that you would not tell their father. And the Holy One, blessed be he, as well, did not tell because of the ban. So therefore, they added God to include, so they have a minyan. They had nobody else, because all the people around were not Jewish. This super commentary explains that Yaakov's son made God partner in the ban so that it would apply to them, because a ban of ostracism is not viable unless 10 participate. But it did not prevent him from revealing the matter. Nevertheless, God did not reveal the matter because he did not desire to treat the ban of ostracism they issued lightly. The rabbi says, and the comment, by the way, it's not the Rebbe. The commentators explain, God was not forbidden from revealing. Somebody was asking about, God was not forbidden because the ban wasn't about God, it was about them. That Reuven and Issachar and Zvulun and Dan and Asher will not be one of them disobeying the rest, living them away and revealing. About God, they had no control over God. All they needed, God, is please come here to be a bedding, to make a minyan. And God agreed, but the word did not apply to God. God did not want to reveal because he did not want it to be broken, a ban that a minyan have taken, but he was not part of the ban.
That's really the explanation.
That's another explanation, right. This explanation clarifies why they made God as a partner in a ban, because 10 participants were required. It also clarifies the concluding words of the Rashi's commentary that the Holy One, blessed be he, does not desire to reveal it to him. It doesn't say he was forbidden because he wasn't part of the ban. He did not desire. Rashi did not state that God was bound by oath not to reveal the matter, because God was not bound by the ban, as stated above. God did not reveal the matter to Yaakov only because he did not desire to. Accordingly, Yitzchak also said, how can I reveal the matter to him when the Holy One, blessed be he, does not desire to reveal it to him? So again, Yitzchak does not reveal it because he says, God don't want to, so then must be the right thing, so I don't want to. God does not want to, I don't know why, but he wasn't part of the ban. Rashi says he did not desire to reveal it to Yaakov. The brothers cannot reveal it because there was a minyan for excommunication. The ban was made with a minyan. How did they have number 10, the center, the number 10? They got God to be number 10. However, okay, the Rebbe says, okay, I think we have a couple of minutes, we should study it. This is, by the way, this is a summary. The Rebbe goes on to more questions and more debate. I don't usually do that, but I think this time we should. However, this is not a viable explanation for Rashi's commentary because, firstly, Rashi did not explain when the ban of ostracism was issued. On the contrary, it is logical to assume that the brothers issued it after Reuven returned to them, and thus they were 10, so that he would also be included in it. For if this were not so, Rashi would have had to explain why Reuven did not reveal the matter. The Rebbe says on a simple text, what the Medrash says is not in Rashi for a good reason. You have number 10, Reuven, he returned back. He knew the truth because he helped them slaughter a goat and mix his coat he knew full well what was going on. How possible that he did not reveal? must be that they waited to make the pact when he returned, and there was a minyan without God. Number two, moreover, according to the straightforward reading of the text and Rashi's commentary, there is no allusion to the rule that a ban of ostracism does not apply unless the 10 participants were that the reason why God had to be part of the ban. It would have been necessary for Rashi to explain this. Says the Rebbe, the only reason you say that God was participated is just to assist him with a minyan. Where does it say you need a minyan? Perhaps less than a minyan. A ban is also powerful and strong enough to obligate everybody to obey. Therefore, it appears necessary to explain, as stated above, that Rashi's intent in saying that they had not, the Holy One, blessed be He, joined together with them, was that God was also, as it were, forbidden because of the ban. In this case, all the above questions remain valid. Says the Rebbe, therefore, they put God as part of the ban, according to straightforward text, because they didn't want God to reveal. So then we have all the questions that come back before. Here is this next question. The next Rashi says that the Rebbe asked, who says God agreed? Here it is. Am I going too far here? Okay, good. The super commentaries to Rashi ask a further question. There is another question, says the Rebbe. How did Yaakov's sons know that the Holy One, blessed be He, agreed to take part in the ban of ostracism? You have to have an agreement. You can't force somebody to be part of the of this ban. Did they ask God and God says, okay, I'm willing? Even a mortal cannot be compelled to participate in a ban of ostracism without his consent. How then did they include the Holy One, blessed be He, in the ban without knowing whether He consented? These commentators offered several explanations for how Yaakov's sons knew that God did not want to reveal the matter to Yaakov and consented to the ban of ostracism among them. So they say we can tell that God agreed. This would enable the covenant bein aptarim to be fulfilled, and in that way Yaakov and his son would descend to Egypt. In other words, they knew that God will agree to it because they knew it will lead to a chain of events that the Jewish people will end up in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, as God had already told Abraham. Yaakov would be punished for 22 years that he did not fulfill the mitzvah of honoring his father and mother. God agreed not to reveal, so Yaakov should pay for the 22 years he missed. Yaakov would not curse his sons for selling Yosef, were he to have cursed them, the Jewish people whose existence is dependent on the descendants of Yaakov would have been erased from the world, heaven forbid. They knew God agreed, because if God wouldn't agree, Yaakov can find out that they sold and he would curse them. If a righteous man cursed them, there will be no continuation to their descendants, to their seeds. If that would happen, there will be no future Jewish people. And therefore, they knew God would agree that they shouldn't live in. Says Rashi, the first thing that says the Rebbe, however, in addition to the difficulties existing with each of these explanations, it cannot be said that this is Rashi's intent. Says the Rebbe, simple. You don't find all of that in Rashi. Rashi does not explain why God agreed, and therefore it's not in Rashi. In addition, says the Rebbe, Rashi concludes his commentary. Yitzchak, however, knew that Yosef was alive. Nevertheless, he did not tell Yaakov, but said, how can I reveal it to him when the Holy One, blessed be He, does not desire to reveal it to him? Moreover, Rashi explicitly states that the reason that God did not want to reveal the matter because Yaakov's sons issued a ban of ostracism against and cursed anyone who would reveal the matter to Yaakov, and they had the Holy One, blessed be He, joined together with them. Therefore, we must say that the ban of excommunication and the curse would apply not only to one who would reveal the entire narrative of the sale of Yosef, but also to one who would reveal that Yosef was alive. Says the Rebbe, we must say that the oath was not only to reveal the fact that he was sold by them, but also to reveal that Yosef is around. Logically, the reason mentioned above would only require, as it were, that God not reveal the entire narrative, that Jacob's son sold Yosef to a caravan of Ishmaelites and they brought him down to Egypt, etc. It would, however, have been possible for God to reveal to Jacob that Yosef was alive, but not to notify him where Yosef was or what happened to him until after 22 years had passed. Says the Rebbe, if the ban was not to reveal the entire narrative, God could have revealed only to Jacob, don't worry, Yosef is alive. And for 22 years, not tell him the location. 22 years later, to reveal it to him. This way, he suffers 22 years without his son, just like he caused his parents. Thus, when the years of famine would come and Yosef would become the viceroy, Yaakov would be forced to descend to Egypt. In this way, the covenant Ben Abtarim would be fulfilled. Yaakov would be punished for 22 years. He did not fulfill the mitzvah of honoring his father and mother, and Yaakov would not curse his sons because he would not suspect that they had sold Yosef into slavery. Says the Rebbe, there is a combination. Tell Yaakov where Yosef is, that Yosef is alive, without disclosing the location, without disclosing how it happened. He will not curse the sons. He will suffer the 22 years to pay back, and the Jewish people will descend to Egypt. All can happen. Yet God chose not to reveal anything at all. Says the Rebbe, now we have another question. All the above can be clarified with a preface of another puzzling phenomenon. How was it possible that not one of Yaakov's sons was aroused to repent, confess, and tell Yaakov that they sold Yosef and he was still alive? In particular, this is troublesome since all the brothers eventually did come to regret their actions. As the Torah states, they said to one another, it's in today's portion, indeed we are guilty because of our brother, for we witnessed the distress of his soul when he begged us. In other words, the Rebbe is asking a simple, again, it's almost a klotz kasher. The fact is that they all regretted it. They all wanted to do teshuvah. They all felt that God is punishing them, and therefore they accepted it as part of their repentance. Yet, we don't find not a single one turned to them and says, let's tell him the truth. Let's reveal to him that he's not dead. He may be alive. Let's, put a wanted on milk crates, and hopefully we will be able to catch him. In truth, however, this was the brothers' intent when they issued the ban of ostracism. Even initially, they suspected that when their anger would subside, at least one of them would regret what they had done and desire to reveal it to Yaakov, thus harming the others. Therefore, they issued a ban of ostracism against and cursed anyone who would reveal the matter to Yaakov, so that one or several of them would not have permission to reveal the matter to Yaakov. However, it is certainly not logical to say that they issued the ban in such a manner that if they all decided to reveal the matter, then it would be forbidden for them to reveal it. Says the Rebbe, that's the Rebbe's ingenuity, and suddenly the Rebbe would say, oh, it's in Rashi. Rashi is not addressing it because Rashi felt that it's obvious. Says the Rebbe, the ban was that not one of them reveal. Why? They fear that after their anger subsides, one of them would say, I made a mistake. Let's make our father stop mourning. But they never intended that all together come to reveal. If they all together come to reveal, it wasn't part of the ban. The ban was about some of them, one of them, two of them, several. There was, however, still room to suspect that one or most of the brothers would desire to compel the others to listen to him or them and reveal the matter to Yaakov. See, for example, Rashi's statement that the brothers said to Yehuda, had you told us to return him to our father, we would have listened to you. In other words, one brother could have swayed all the others to reveal the truth. For this reason, the brothers had God participated with them in a band of ostracism. In this way, the decision whether and when to reveal the matter to Yaakov would be dependent on God. Even if all of them together agreed to tell Yaakov, they would not be permitted to reveal the matter and violate the ban unless God joined them and consented. Now the Rebbe tells us why God was participating. You know why they got God? They said, we will not reveal it, and we will not allow one of us or few of us to portray to sway some of us to reveal, because we're going to get God. And the only time we can break the ban is when God tells us it's the right time. Now, one of them cannot say to the rest, look how bad we behaved. We need to do teshuvah and share the truth. So even when they regret it, as we read in the Torah, they fully regretted it. They had no permission to reveal until they see a sign from God. However, it cannot be said that their intent was that they included God in the ban and compelled them, as it were, not to reveal the matter, for they had no way of knowing whether he would agree to this, as explained above. The intent of the statement that the Holy One, blessed be He, did not reveal the matter because they issued a ban of ostracism, and they had the Holy One, blessed be He, joined together with them, is as follows. They had the Holy One, blessed be He, joined together with them, means that they agreed not to reveal the matter without his consent and involvement. Thus, even though by issuing the ban, they did not intend to prohibit God from revealing the matter without their consent, he nevertheless, as it were, joined together with them and consented that the nullification of the ban and the revelation of the matter to Jacob would only take place when they all, Jacob's son and God, joined together to do so. In other words, when they got God, they didn't get God consent, but they asked God to be participating, so they have a minyan, but in addition, that they will not break the ban unless God also agreed to it. And therefore, one of them cannot frustrate the rest, because they're God. And that's where God says, I don't want to reveal. He wasn't forbidden from revealing. He didn't want to. Only when God would want to reveal, that's when they can break the ban. Now, I'm skipping some. On this basis, the original question can be resolved. The reason Yosef did not send a messenger to notify Yaakov that he was alive was that he knew that the Holy One, blessed be He, did not desire to reveal it to him. This taught him that Yaakov did not yet need to know that Yosef was still alive. Therefore, Yosef also said, how can I reveal it to him when the Holy One, blessed be He, does not desire to reveal it to him? He knew that God did not want to. He wasn't forbidden by the oath, by the ban, but he was part of it and he did not want for a reason. What's the reason? So Yosef should come to Egypt. And so Yaakov should come to Egypt, and Yaakov should pay for 22 years. Therefore, Yosef said, how can I break that oath? How can I reveal if God does not want? Just like Yitzchak said, I don't want because God didn't want to. I also don't want to.
That was Ruach HaKodesh. How would you know?
Huh?
That was Ruach HaKodesh. How would you know that God?
Of course, yes. There are still questions that require clarification. Aleph, because of the ban of ostracism, we're finishing. It was forbidden for Yaakov's son to inform him that Yosef was alive. How did they ultimately do so? So what happened that they broke the ban? B, how did Yosef instruct them to tell Yaakov that he was alive, since God did not reveal the matter to Yaakov? So what happened that they changed? Says Rashi, says the Rebbe, these questions are also clarified by Rashi in his commentary. Rashi on the verse, Yaakov saw that there was grain being sold in Egypt. Vayar Yaakov ki yeshever b'Mitzrayim. Rashi comments, he saw with a lens of holiness, it's a vision of prophetic vision, that he still had hope in Egypt. But it was not an actual prophecy to explicitly inform him that this was Yosef. He felt that there is some hope, some light coming from Egypt. He didn't know exactly. It was very blurry. He didn't know that it's about Yosef, but he knew something good is about to happen. Upon hearing their father use the term, Yaakov's sons, who knew Yosef was in Egypt, understood that this vision emanated from a lens of holiness, and that God was informing them that the time had come to seek out Yosef and ultimately inform Yaakov that Yosef was alive. Therefore, the brothers of Yosef descended. As Rashi explained, this wording indicates that they regretted selling him and decided to behave towards him as brotherly in a brotherly manner, and to ransom him for whatever amount of money would be demanded of them. Rashi says that they went to Egypt not just for food, but to find Yosef, and they would do whatever it takes. And later on, Yosef is talking to them and asking them about their brother, and they said, even if we have to kill an entire city, we'll do to release him and bring him back. Similar concept applied regarding Yosef's notification of his father. When he saw that his brothers were endeavoring to find him, he understood that something was afoot. Nevertheless, since he did not know with certainty that the appropriate time had come to inform Yaakov, and moreover and primarily, since he knew that were he to inform Yaakov before his brothers did, he would damage their relationship with Yaakov. He therefore refrained from notifying Yaakov by a messenger. Accordingly, he told his brothers, I am Yosef, your brother, knowing that they who had issued the ban of ostracism would surely realize when the Holy One, blessed be he, desired to inform Yaakov, and they would tell him Yosef is still alive. So now it's all coming together. Yosef did not reveal because he didn't want to, because he saw God didn't want to. God didn't want to because he wanted Yaakov to suffer and he didn't feel right. They could not reveal because they make a band and they included God. So only when God agrees to change, they are able to break the band. Now when Yaakov says, Vayar Yaakov ki yesh shever b'Mitzrayim, he saw in the prophetic vision something is great happening, they knew that God is sending a message, it's time to reveal. They go back to look for Yosef and bring him back to Yaakov. When Yosef reveals himself, he says, I'm not going to send a messenger. They have to go back so that they should not be cursed by Yaakov for selling him, and he will forgive them. And thus, now we understand why Yosef did not reveal to Yaakov earlier than that time.
He answered, I think also Coach Kashi, he says, I'm Yosef's brother, is my father still alive? He knew he was alive.
So Rashi is asking this question, and Rashi says he knew full well that Yaakov is alive, but to enter into a conversation with them, he asked them.
That's what he answered?
Yeah, Rashi says that. Be well, everybody.